Admitting powerlessness over our problems is extremely difficult, and putting God at the forefront of our lives in the face of those problems is even more difficult still. Welcome to Breaking the Cycle. My name is Alan Hyde, and I'm your host. I ask you to join me as we unravel stories of recovery, shift perspectives, and inspire change in those who are seeking answers and solution. Let's get into it. Hey guys, today's reading comes from A Little Time for Myself, a collection of Al-Anon personal experiences. The concept of live and let live is simple enough, yet sometimes I struggle with practicing this essential part of recovery. Learning to take care of myself is crucial to my healing and restoration. This is how I truly learn to live. I found this strange phenomenon in recovery. The more I take care of myself, the better others are able to take care of themselves. And quite frankly, I worry less about what they're doing or not doing when the focus is on myself, where it truly belongs. Today's reminder: by keeping the focus on myself today, I can truly live and let live. And what I like about this reader is it also comes with a question for today. And the question today is, how do my choices contribute to my own healing today? As a career therapist, this is a cornerstone of the work I do with my clients. They come in with a problem, and depending where they're at with that problem or the level of distress that it's causing them, they've got a lot of questions about that problem. They've got a lot of concerns and worries around those problems. And when you really listen to a person as they unfold their distress, there's clear paths that present themselves. And usually that individual starts to see them for themselves. And the reason that happens in therapy is because when someone feels really heard and is really expressing themselves, they often see the solution present itself before their very eyes. And that also can take a lot of time. Right? It can happen really quickly for some, but for others, it can take time. There's no perfect formula to that process. And that's where the therapist comes in. I can hold certain things up for people to help them see the focus, right? Where they can focus on themselves in those situations. And what I've found in my clinical practice over 11 years is that when somebody can get really honest about what they need to take care of for themselves in their daily life, problems seem to melt away. And I see this one all the time when someone steps into recovery in their life or decides to come to therapy consistently and start practicing the principles of well-being in their daily life between sessions. They often very quickly they find themselves discontinuing the complaints about other people, and they start noticing their own behaviors. And when a person starts to notice their own behaviors, that's when they start to claim personal power in their lives. That's when they can start to piece together solution. They start to focus on their life and let other people make their decisions. And oftentimes in my clinical practice, I'll speak with my clients from the perspective of give other people the dignity to live their own lives. Whether that other person is making mistakes, is being destructive in their life, or aren't making good decisions, it's of little to no consequence to you. And people might hear that and say, well, what do you mean it has little of no consequence to me? That's my mom or my dad or my brother, my sister, my husband, my kids, right? And in the grand scheme of things, conversations can take place about, how we can better take care of ourselves to take care of our kids, right? But when we're talking about other adults, now we're in the territory of boundaries. And boundaries are extremely important. I'll plant this seed, and we'll talk about this in many concepts, I'm sure, over the episodes, is boundaries are not a parameter that you can place on another person. They're not a line that you can draw in the sand that another person has to respect. A boundary is a parameter that you set for yourself. It's a line that you set for yourself that you will not cross. So if you see somebody in your life who's misbehaving or engaged in behaviors that you don't like, the only boundary that's going to be reasonable and sane in that situation is for you not to engage with that person when they're doing those things. And if you can do that and take care of yourself in that moment, let's give the classic, maybe extreme examples of, like, you have a loved one who's using substances and you don't agree with that life decision. It's going to be a lot more destructive to that person if you go to them and try to get them to stop. Because number one, maybe they don't want to stop. And number two, even if they did, they're not going to do it your way. They're going to get sober their way, and they're going to figure it out on their own. And we have to get out of their way. Right? People on the outside watching that, we got to get out of their way. And a good way to do that is to communicate with yourself as openly and compassionately as you can. I am not going to save this person from their bad decisions. I'm not going to avert their consequences when they've chosen to behave this way. And I don't sit here and profess to you that that's going to be an easy thing to do. Quite the contrary. It's probably one of the hardest things you're going to do in your life, is set a boundary for yourself to not help somebody who's engaging in poor behaviors, because you love the person, you care about them. Right? But when you do that, when you step out of somebody else's way, they have to experience the gravity of their decisions. And that's when people change. People don't change when it's like, I need money from you to facilitate this problem. And then they get the money. It's like, why be baffled that they used that money not to seek support, but to seek the problem that was the problem in the first place? It's like, I need money to get back on my feet. No, they can get back on their feet without money. People do it every day. People do it all the time. There are plenty of resources out there for them, and that are completely free if they're having a really, really hard time. And if you need those resources, you can listen to podcasts like this. We live in the information age. You can go online. There's information everywhere that those people can find. And I'll tell you this, if they're in a desperate enough spot, they will find it. I promise you, I guarantee you that they're going to get so desperate that they have to find it. You don't have to find it for them. And so this daily reader is a really good reminder to stay in our lane, right? As each individual, focus on your struggles, take care of yourself, and you'll be surprised how the people around you respond to that. They'll see the model of you taking care of yourself. And even if just from the standpoint of, they'll feel left alone. So they got to figure it out on their own. That's a good outcome as well. It all works out for the good. And that's what we have to remind ourselves. Because in the meantime, it may not seem like me stepping away and setting boundaries for myself was anything good in that situation for the other person. But you don't know that. You don't know that, as much as you don't know that if you were to help, that would be anything good for the person, because they may manipulate and pervert your help. And so the best you can do is take care of yourself. And when you do that, you're going to feel better. And if you feel better, you're going to respond to people differently, even when they are misbehaving. And I watch that every day in my clinical practice. People get better, not just personally, but in their interpersonal relationships, when they prioritize their own personal needs and well-being. I'm not saying be self-centered, but be selfish. And there's a big difference. Self-centeredness is, I expect other people to anticipate and take care of my needs. That's self-centeredness. Selfishness is, I know what my needs are and I'm going to take care of them so that other people don't have to. And if you can master that process, then you'll have a little bit of what the book was talking about today. The ability to get better, feel better, and watch people around you get better. And so we try our best, one day at a time, to live and let live. And I'm going to pull that question up one more time. You probably hear me bouncing around over here with the microphone, but I dropped the book. So I'm picking it back up and I'm going to read the question of the day. And I'm going to leave you with that question for today. And that is, how do my choices contribute to my own healing? One more time. How do my choices contribute to my own healing today? My hope for you is that you find your healing today and you follow through on it. Today's the Super Bowl, so maybe your healing is going and watching Taylor Swift, watch Usher at the halftime show, and root on some football. I don't know if that's healing for you today, but it's going to be healing for me today. And I'm about to sign off and go do that. So I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll chat with you guys again soon. Take care. I'd like to thank you for listening to this episode of Breaking the Cycle. If you're looking for more information regarding the topics that I discuss in this podcast, jump over to alanhyde.com. The website will be in the description. If you're looking to get involved, make a donation, or to get your hands on some cool Breaking the Cycle merchandise, that will also be available at the website, and we encourage your support. Without your support, this podcast would not be possible. So I just want to thank you. And as always, bless your heart.